Hi everyone, so today rather than starting the fluency in the video, I have set for you on Purple Mash some times tables. So this is the games that we've done previously. So remember, you don't need to hand it in, but we will see when you've completed it and your score. So you've got a choice to do that now, pause the video and go and warm up your brains, or you can do it when you've finished. Okay, now I'm going to go through yesterday's challenge, which was pretty tricky. You had to use those digit cards to create a multiplication sentence. So the answer that you should have got is 2 times by 3/4 equals 9/6. So you had to think outside the box a little bit for this. It bases on the fact that, so 2 times 3/4, as we know, is 6/4, and then you have to make equivalent fractions like I've done underneath. So you could have got 36/24, which is the same then as 9/6. If you got that, really well done. Okay, today we are going to carry on looking at converting fractions to decimals. Now I say continue because we looked at this when we looked at division a couple of weeks ago. And so to start off with, I have got our place value grid here. So we've got our hundreds, tens, units, then our decimal point, and our tenths, hundredths and thousandths. So remember, anything past this decimal point, our place value is getting smaller and smaller, and anything past this decimal point is a part of a whole. So we can represent that as a decimal, a fraction, or even a percentage. So here we've got tenths. Now if we were to write that as a fraction, that would mean our denominator is 10, hundredths, our denominator is hundredths, and thousandths, hopefully obviously, is thousandths. So when we're writing that as a decimal, if I'd got, let's say, 4/10, to write that as a decimal, well, I've got no holes, got no whole groups, my decimal point, and then I've got 4 that goes in my tenths column, 4/10. So it's exactly the same. And the same for any other of our place values. So if I'd got 500ths, that's the same as no holes, decimal point, no tenths, and 500ths. So it would be 0.05. Okay, well, first time to pause the video. Using a place value grid, I would like to see one of these. I want you to write as a decimal these fractions. So 2/10, 300ths and 7/1000ths. So 3 different decimal numbers using a place value grid. Okay, let's start off with 2/10. So we'll go to our place value grid. I've got 2 in my tenths column. So I've got no whole numbers, no whole, it's not a mixed number. My decimal point, and then 2 in my tenths column gives me 0.2. Next one, we've got 300ths. So if I put my 3 here, so now I've got no whole numbers, decimal point, no tenths, and 300ths. So it's 0.03. And then the last one, 7/1000ths. So 7 in my thousandths column, no whole number, decimal point, no tenths, no hundredths, and 7/1000ths. So you should have 0.007. Now I'm going to think about some numbers to 2 decimal places, so a 2-digit fraction, for example 21/100ths. We can partition this and turn it into, so we know that there are 20 hundredths and 1/100th. But 20 hundredths, we can make that much simpler, and we can turn that into 2/10. So if I put that into my place value grid, I've got 2/10, which was my 20 hundredth, and then my 1/100th. So as a decimal, that creates 0 units, no whole numbers, decimal point, 2/10 and 1/100th. So it's 0.21. Now let's think about a 3-digit. Now let's think about a 3-digit fraction, or a number to 3 decimal places. So going up to our thousandths. So if we had 423 thousandths, how can we partition this? So we've got 400 thousandths. Now, to simplify that, we can do it in steps. So we can go to 40 hundredths, and then simplify it again to 4/10. So I can put my 4/10 in there. So 4/10 is the same as 400 thousandths. So that's this here. The next part we've got, if we're going to partition this, is we've got the 2. So that's part of our 20 thousandths. So we can partition our 20 thousandths to 2 hundredths. So putting that in our place value grid, we've got 2 hundredths. And then left, we've got our 3. So our 3 thousandths just stays the same as 3 thousandths. So we can pop that into our place value grid up here. So as a decimal, we can now write 423 thousandths as 0 holes, our decimal point, 4, 2, 3. Now I want you to pause the video and have a go at writing these fractions as decimals in the same way that I've just done. So I want you to turn 52 hundredths into a decimal, and this one 74 tenths as a decimal. Now this is something that I haven't just done, so I want you to think about this one carefully. So then, first one, 52 tenths. We should have partitioned this. So we've got 50 hundredths, and then we can simplify 50 hundredths into 5 tenths. So in our place value grid, that goes up here in our tenths column. And then we've got 2 hundredths left over, so we can do plus 2 hundredths. 2 goes in our hundredths column, so our decimal should be 0.52. Hopefully you got that. Now, 74 tenths, I tried to be a bit sneaky. This is an improper fraction. So remember, this is a division sentence. It's 74 divided by 10. So we should know that actually there are 7 wholes in this, if we're going to turn it into a mixed number. 7 wholes and 4 tenths left over. So in our place value grid, I need a 7 in my units column, because that's my whole number. And then my tenths, my decimal is already in tenths, my denominator is a 10, so I've got 4 of them. And so that as a decimal is 7.4. So well done if you got that. Next up, we're going to look at how to turn fractions that don't have a denominator of 10, 100 or 1000 into a decimal. So for example, if we had 4 fifths. Now to start with, I can't turn this into a decimal because my denominator is fifths. However, using what we know about equivalent fractions, I can turn my denominator into one of these. So easy enough, we can think about how many fifths, how many tenths is the same as 4 fifths. So to my denominator, thinking about equivalent fractions, I've multiplied by 2. So I must do the same to my numerator. 4 times by 2 gives me 8. Now I've got the fraction of 8 tenths. I can put that in my place value grid, and it gives me the decimal 0.8. Okay, so the key is make your your denominator tenths, hundredths or thousandths. Remember, we can also do this when our denominator is bigger than our tenths. So for example, in order to simplify this fraction, rather than multiplying, we are dividing. So 20 divided by 2 gives me 10. Same to my numerator, which gives me 7. 7 tenths, so my decimal is 0.7. And finally, remember that we can do this with mixed number fractions as well. So if we've got 2 wholes and 3 fifths, my 2 wholes can stay the same. That's going to go in my units column. That can go straight in. But then my fraction, I still need the denominator to be tenths. So times it by 2, times it by 2 gives me 6 tenths. 2 wholes and 6 tenths. So the decimal is 2.6. Okay, your turn to have a go now. I want you to turn 12 twentieths into a decimal, and I want you to turn 6 wholes and 2 fifths into a decimal. Remember to use your place value grid. Okay, so to go through this, first of all we had 12 twentieths. We should be turning our denominator into tenths. We can recognise that we can divide the numerator and the denominator by 2, which gives us 6 tenths. So as a decimal, this is 0.6. Now our next number was a mixed number fraction, which was 6 wholes and 2 fifths. So our 6 wholes stays the same. And our 2/5 we can turn it into tenths again. So we times the numerator and the denominator by 2, which gives us 6 wholes and 4 tenths. So putting this into our place value grid, we have 6 in our units, 0.4, which is our 4 tenths. To help us with the next part, we're going to be looking at denominators where the denominator, For the next part, we're going to be looking at fractions where the denominator isn't easily recognisable as being able to turn it into tenths, hundredths or thousandths. To help us with this, I want you to first pause the video and write out the factors of 100. Off you go. Hopefully the factors you found were 1 and 100, 2 and 50, 4 and 25, 5 and 20 and then 10. Try and keep that factor book near you because it will help you with today's activities. So for example, when I'm turning 1/4, I want to turn it into a decimal. I know that I need my denominator to be tenths, hundredths or thousandths. Thinking about our factor book, I know that 4 is a factor of 100, so I should be able to turn my denominator into hundredths. So think about what you times 4 by to get to 100. We times it by 25. We do the same to our numerator. 1 times 25 gives me 25 hundredths. Thinking about what we've just been practicing, 25 hundredths as a decimal is 0.25. Remember, 20 hundredths is the same as 2 tenths, and you've got 5 hundredths left. Thinking about that, here's 2 for you to have a go at. So try turning 10 50ths and 2 wholes and 6 25ths into decimals. Remember, you can draw a place value grid to help you as well. Okay, hopefully this first one was quite easy. We know we can turn 50ths into hundredths by multiplying them both by 2. So 50 times by 2, 10 times by 2 gives me 20 hundredths. To simplify that, it gives me 2 tenths as a decimal, 0.2. Now for your next one, you've got a whole number to contend with. We've got a mixed number fraction. So 2 wholes and 6 25ths, what can I turn my denominator into? 25ths, I know, is a factor of 100, times it by 4. Same to our numerator, gives us 24. So now I've got 2 wholes, that stays the same. Then goes in my decimal point, 24 hundredths. So let's think, I've got 2 tenths and 4 hundredths. So our answer should be 2.24. To help you with today's tasks, there are some decimals and fraction equivalents that are just helpful to know and to remember off the top of your head. So I've written them down for you. So 1/2 is 0.5. We should all recognise that one. 5 tenths, 5 out of 10. Always remember that one. 1/4 is the same as 0.25. And 1/8 is 0.125. Hopefully you can see the relationship in between each of these. They're getting smaller and smaller each time. They're halving each time. And then another one that's handy to remember is 1/3. Okay, so this is actually 0.333 and a little dot. Now that means it's recurring, so that decimal will go on and on and on and on and on together. So we know if we'd got 1 apple or 1 pizza shared between 3 people, we'll never get it exactly accurate for each person to get an equal amount. So it will be a recurring decimal, it will never divide equally. So these will help you with today's activities, so just try and practice them and remember them. This one in particular you might need to think about, well, if you know what 1/8 is, how do you know what more than 1/8 is? Just one more point out about the second question on your Mymaths today. You're going to see some division questions such as this. 32 divided by 5. Now remember, we can represent a fraction as a division. So we know that this is going to be a mixed number. Okay, so it would just be as a fraction, it would be 32 fifths, an improper fraction. So turn it into a mixed number. We know that's 6 wholes and 2 fifths. To turn it into decimal, just like we've just done, 6 wholes and 4 tenths, so the decimal is 6.4. You're also going to come across a word problem in today's Mymaths, but I'm not going to go through that. The only tip I'm going to give to you is make sure that both of your numbers are in decimal point form first, and that will help you. That's it for today. As I've just mentioned, your task is on Mymaths. If you've got any questions or something that you're struggling with, please send an email to our email address, which I'll put at the end of the video, or post it on our class blogs. It would be great to see a few more of you having a go at the challenges as well. And today's challenge is coming up now. See you tomorrow.